How's it going, everyone? Hope you guys are having a fantastic day so far, but I'm ready to give you guys my review on Tokyo Ghoul chapter 135, Night Comes. And I do want to apologize because I tried getting this review out on the same day as my live reaction, but after rereading the chapter and talking with you guys in the comment section of my live reaction, I realized I actually made a mistake and assumed, the character connection between Ryo and Roma, and I was dead wrong, and I am man enough to actually admit that I was wrong on some information of Tokyo Ghoul. I'm not an expert, I'm a fan just like all of you guys that just loves Ishida's work, and I can get stuff wrong from time to time, just the way I'm reading it or just how I'm interpreting a page, but the whole connection where I thought that Ryo and Roma were brother and sister, I was dead wrong on that. So once we get to that point in my review, I'll talk about that more in detail because that is actually connects very heavily to a video I did on Ryo and Tokyo Ghoul jail. So let's just dive right into this chapter. I'm gonna go through it page by page. I don't really have any notes on this chapter, and I feel like it's pretty straightforward, but the stuff I do wanna talk about and just delve into and just discuss a little bit more that what got revealed about Roma's character in this chapter, there are some interesting things. And let me just say right off the bat, this was an excellent chapter. One of the better chapters we've gotten of Tokyo Ghoul in quite some time. So let's kick it in to the color page of this chapter, which I gotta say, this might be one of my favorite color pages that Ishida has done for Tokyo Ghoul chapter. I love the black background, the dark and light blues. It looks so cool, just the way it's colored in on Kaneki. You see his ghoul eye colored in red, but then you see this sword basically piercing his hand down at the bottom where he's making a fist, and you see blood basically on the ground. I really want to know what that right there is trying to symbolize right there, but it's the dialogue on the page that I'm also really wondering too as well. The good omen of that back shadow is ever so far. And the way that I interpret this is that everything in Kaneki's past, basically where his shadow would be, those were the good times, especially with recent chapters about how many good moments Kaneki has had since chapter 125. The man got laid, he got married, he's had some good moments leading up till now. But now with this dialogue saying that they are ever so far away, he's approaching darkness. He's approaching something that's going to be tragic. And we know that as it states basically within this chapter, in the last couple of chapters, tragedy is striking right now, and we are fearing for a lot of these characters' lives right now. So for Kaneki, the good memories are in the past, and moving forward, he's kind of going into the darkness, and he doesn't know what's going to be happening when he gets out of it. And I think this actually ties in to the title of this chapter, where it is Night Comes. And I get a very Dark Knight kind of quote from this, where it's like, the night is darkest just before the dawn. And I think that applies very heavily right now with what's going on in Tokyo Ghoul, because Tokyo Ghoul is just one big tragedy, and it's not going to be till the very end of the series to where that glimmer of light finally comes through and we see the dawn out of the darkness that we just got through. So that's basically what I'm getting from the title and the cover page. But now let's actually dive into the main content that got revealed in this chapter. And we got to talk about Roma. Roma's character was a complete enigma when you go back to previous chapters of Tokyo Ghoul. She just randomly showed up one time, and I believe her debut was actually in chapter 84. But since then, we knew that she was a part of Clown, but other than that, we didn't really know too much about her. But this backstory we got in this chapter basically summarizes her character in a nutshell. So we learned that from a very young age, she was just going around killing humans, feasting on them, and then when that got tiring, she basically moved on to ghouls, and people were like, stay away from her. Whether you're a human or a ghoul, do not go near this individual. And then once that got bored, and she was just like, what the hell am I supposed to do now? And I love this little piece of dialogue right here where she's just looking at all of the common people, them just going through their day-to-day lives, and it's this dialogue right here I absolutely love. How ugly, how weak, how frail, and how cheerful. I wanted to poke their nests. I wanted to mercilessly kill them. I wanted to pitilessly force them to live. They alone were my bread and circuses, given to me by the gods above. So I created Clown. We learn right here that Roma is the sole person that created the clowns. When we think of the clowns, honestly, I think most of us think of Donato as the leader of this organization, the person that founded this. I don't think anyone could have actually placed their bets on Roma being the founding member of the clown organization. Like, that right there is crazy enough, but the whole clown organization is based off of Roma's boredom and wanting to breed chaos into the world, because all of these normal people going through their day-to-day lives, going through the motions, kind of like on a conveyor belt. Like, if you looked at this one panel where you see all these people just in normal clothing, one person holding a guitar, basically what I get from this is, like, people go to work, they come back from work, they eat dinner, they go to sleep, and they just rinse and repeat the same routines day in and day out. And Roma views this as not actually living. And what she wants to do is, like, make them fear for their lives, get them out of their comfort zone, get them doing something that is not in their normal routine. So if it means poking at the nest, basically getting them uncomfortable and trying to get comfortable with the uncomfortable, and maybe even kill them at some point along the way, that right there is actually living. And seeing that philosophy for Roma's character, it makes a lot of sense when you actually look back on just how she's acted throughout the entire series of Tokyo Ghoul. But then we get more reveals as we go through the chapter, and this is only on page 2 of this chapter. Roma Hyoto isn't even her real name. She has no real name. She has countless aliases, which we come to learn about, some of them in this chapter, but her real age, I was flabbergasted once this got revealed. She is 51 years old. 51? Like, she looks good for a 51-year-old, that's all I gotta say, but I just find it very, very funny that when you look at characters like Roma, Kyoko, and Misa, these characters are a lot older than they appear to be. Like, Kyoko is 52 years old apparently, yet she looks like she's in her late 20s, early 30s. Roma looks like she's freaking 15 years old, but she's 51. And Misa looks like she's 12, but I don't remember how old she actually is. But you get my point, is that there's a lot of characters right now within Tokyo Ghoul that actually look a lot younger than they actually do. So learning all that stuff was crazy in and of itself, but then we actually get to see Roma in the Kakuja prison, and we come to learn why she's actually there. It's basically due to a wild party, the way she describes it, or a certain event. She ended up getting captured and she was just in a fun, solitary existence. But the ironic thing is that when the Doves captured her, they had no idea that she was the founder of this chaos-bringing organization. And everyone else that was left in the organization had no idea who the founder was and who actually invented and brought to them this game for them to play and bring chaos around the world. And the way she puts it is like, they don't know whose garden they play in. Like, honestly, that line right there is absolutely amazing. But now this brings us to the point where I was totally wrong first time I read this chapter. And now looking at it now, I totally see why I got it wrong, because looking at Ryo's hairstyle right here, it looks very similar to Roma, but it doesn't have the 3 hairstyles coming off of basically the top of her head. So this part right here goes very heavily into the storyline of Tokyo Ghoul Jail. And if you guys want to learn more about that, there's going to be a video basically right up there where I talked about Ryo within the video game of Tokyo Ghoul Jail. And this is basically a non-canon story to where Ishida is basically plucking a few ideas and a few key story points here and there to implement it within the manga story of Tokyo Ghoul, because there's many endings, there's many storylines in this video game, and there's only possibly one true one that could possibly fit in here, but Ishida is, you know, working it around a little bit so that way it is more coherent and actually is canon to the overall story of the manga for Tokyo Ghoul. But this part right here, we actually see Kijima make a reappearance in this chapter, and he's dragging Ryo basically by this chain, and he's asking him, "My brother, please let me see my brother." And he's just laughing at this as Ryo's basically begging for him to want to see his brother. And at this point he goes, "Well, I don't think you want to see him right now because he's a lot smaller than you remember. Jail, I mean, that is." And then he's like, "Ryo." So this right here is basically referencing Kijima's Quinke. If you guys were unaware of this, this is actually a story thread within the Tokyo Ghoul Jail series, but then has also made it into the story. So basically, Kijima's Quinke, Rotten Follow, was actually made from the Kakuho of Ryo's brother, and this is like that chainsaw that we kind of saw Kijima use back during the Rosewald investigation arc. But ever since he died, we saw Furuta use it a little bit here and there, but we haven't really seen it since. So this right here is basically referencing a little bit of that storyline from the video game, but it's bringing it into the manga. And I'm amazed I actually missed this on my first read through, but I was just so caught up on the reveals of Roma that I honestly thought that Rio was Roma in this situation. But this right here is just basically confirming that once this little dialogue happens, this is when Rio kind of started to lose his marbles, because we know Rio right now in present time is very scatterbrained. Like, he cannot make any sense of words. He uses emojis to speak, and this right here just shows Roma basically falling asleep to the screams of both Rio and all the other ghouls within the Cochlea prison. This was Roma's lullaby. She fell asleep to the agonizing screams of all the ghouls getting tortured and who knows what else within the Cochlea prison. And then it's at this point another tie-in to in between basically volume 7 and 8, when Eto and Tatara were away from their base while, you know, Kaneki was getting tortured, and they went to go raid the prison. And this ties in very beautifully because we just see Tatara show up and he's like, "The SS Rage Clown Gypsy, huh? Come join us, we'll make a world for ghouls." And this I just absolutely love, and it just shows how Roma's personality shines through within this dark prison where she didn't lose a beat at all. She's like, "For ghouls? Please, a society centered around ghouls? I don't need anything like that. I'm a spectator, the kind that jeers from the stands, a watcher on high. I ruin fights I don't enjoy." I love that kind of stuff, and I doubt that fit with your lot's dogma. Like, that dialogue right there, I absolutely love. So Tatara is just like, all right, I've had enough with this. Goes to basically kill her right then and there. Roma just jumps over that Kagane and just like, "Why thank ye, dummy," and just pieces out. And then Eto shows up with Rio in tow and just basically goes, "I found this guy," and he's got 4 types of Kagane. And I really do like this reveal as well, because this is the verbal confirmation that we have been waiting for on Shikare/Rio's character. We've seen 3 out of his 4 type of Kagane. He has yet to use his Renkaku, but we've seen the other 3. And we basically were 100% confirmed up until this point that he had 4 types of Kagane, but this is just the verbal confirmation. I'm really glad Ishida actually put this into the chapter in case anyone was like, "Nah, that's not it. This is not Rio. He doesn't have 4 types of Kagane." He has 4 types of Kagane, and then we just see Roma basically skipping out of the prison, going rum papa, heads over to Haisai, Uta's shop, and ends up getting a haircut because, you know, you can't look like a prisoner when you're walking around Tokyo streets. So I like this part as well because this explains why Roma was so fascinated with Kaneki when she first got introduced back in chapter 84 and was working at Inteku, because Uta basically lets it know, it's like, hey, there's a one-eyed ghoul amongst us right now and he works at Inteku. And she's basically like, wait, Kuzen's shop? I should get a part-time job there. I'll introduce you. And I love that little piece of dialogue right there. And then we get even more stuff with him basically saying, I just want to let you know, there's a new face of the clown organization since you were away. He calls himself a ghoul investigator, and the fact that Furuta had the balls to basically say that to a ghoul, show him his badge, and Uta just basically fell down on his ass, I found very, very funny. Like, that is just typical Uta and just the clown mentality in general. And that is the end of that flashback, which I gotta say is a great ass flashback. So we go to present time with Urei basically getting shish kebabbed by Roma. We see Roma rise, and her face is just so disfigured and just got all like the skin melted off it. It's an awesome shot, but disgusting at the same time. And we see Roma basically heal that shit up right real quick. But then we get this piece of dialogue with Furuta and Kaneki in the same panel, and I'm very curious about this because it says, "Keep up the parade, my dear boy." And this falls in line with all the other dialogue on this page when she's basically talking about that everything to her is meaningless enjoyment. And what I kind of get from this piece of dialogue is that she loves the chaos that Furuta and Kaneki right now are bringing with their war, basically between humans, CCG, and ghouls. And this is where she basically flourishes. If you guys watch Game of Thrones, she is basically the Littlefinger right now, thriving in chaos. And she's just climbing up the ladder, trying to get the best position possible, but she doesn't really care about where she is as long as that she is just a part of the chaos, living life to the fullest. And that is just absolutely insane to me that this little character right here that just got so nonchalantly introduced into the series, just showed up in one chapter and she was basically a part of the story. It's amazing to think that with that entire backstory that she was just this huge figure in the background moving all of the puppet strings. That is absolutely insane to me. And then she releases this huge ass Kagane, smashes Urei's head against the wall, and you see the face he makes. I'm surprised this man is not dead yet. She goes up to pick Ryo/Shikare, tells him, let's go eat this kid, and then we get this massive reveal of her Kakuja. Honestly, this thing is a monstrosity when you're looking at this. Her head and arms are just sticking out of this huge ass Kakuja, and we get the title of it, the Triple S Rate, the Dodgy Mother. This thing is absolutely humongous, and then she ends up spouting out this dialogue about how this ain't gonna go how it did with Demon Sune. And Demon Sune is a reference to Shiniyoshi Washu, or Papa Grandfather Washu, the old man with the long hair that used to sit in the same chair that Furuta now sits in. And the last time we saw him, he was basically a shish kebab skewered onto his desk. So this gives us a little bit of a hint of what might have possibly gone down in a confrontation with the clowns coming into the main CCG office going to confront Grandfather Washu. So Urei is just basically in his mind saying, well, I'm dead. It was a nice life. We see Furuta, the troll himself, basically looking on like as if this doesn't even faze him. And in his mind, he's just like, ew, that looks disgusting. And then we have the biggest balls of them all within the CCG, Kuriowa stepping in with nothing more than a medieval sword. Like honestly, this man is standing up to a Triple S Rate Kakuja with nothing more than a sword. This man's balls are the size of planets, like the size of planets, people I'm talking about. This man fears nothing. He is willing to risk his life for Urei, and I do kind of feel that if he were to go out, this would be the most badass way he could possibly go out. But of course, in Ishida fashion, he pulls away from this action and goes over to the other action that we were desperately wanting to know about with the underground. But I hate this because now we had to wait 2 weeks basically for whatever happens next with this battle between this giant ass Kakuja and Kuriowa. So we move over basically to the Oggai all framing out, and I do want to mention this right off the bat, and this was actually brought to my attention last chapter when the Oggai were framing out, because if you notice on the last page of that last chapter, their hair was turning white, and I wasn't sure if this was just an artistic style that Ishida chose for that chapter, because it was very, you know, black, a lot of blacks going everywhere, and just to make the Oggai stand out a little bit more, it could have just been an artistic choice just to change their hair to white, because we saw Urei last chapter with white hair as well. But this chapter basically confirms that with all the Oggai framing out, all that stress and all of them just screaming at the top of their lungs, they basically have white hair the same way Kaneki does. So not only do they have white hair like Kaneki, they have Kagane like Kaneki, because even Yomo is like, they have the same type of Kagane as Ken, and we see all of the fodder of the white suits and the triple blades basically getting cut down, decapitated, and basically Mitsuki and Ora are just up high witnessing this all, shouting out orders down below to all of the Oggai to be like, make sure you finish them off, we want to get this done before the king gets back, but kill the woman with the crappy comb over. She's the one-eyed king's weak spot. She knows that Kaneki really does care about Touka, and Mitsuki's making it her life mission to kill Touka at all costs. I know a lot of people right now are writing down in the comment section, Mitsuki sucks, I hate Mitsuki. I get it. I totally get why people hate her, but I love her as the antagonist that she's playing right now, and the fact that she is doing such a damn good job and Ishida is writing her in such a way, I love the way that she's going right now. She's just being absolutely badass, and she is just a woman that knows what she wants, even though it's a twisted want, and just wants high Zay's D. That's all she wants. She wants high Zay's D. And so the Oggai, moving away from that, are basically going berserk, killing more of the ghouls. We see them having these like Kakuja framed out faces, very similar to Kaneki when he was in half Kakuja mode, which I find very interesting. We see Misa's triple blades, one of her subordinates, and also one of the white suit subordinates go in to try to attack Mitsuki and Ora. They make quick work of this fodder right here. They cut him down real quick, and then Mitsuki is like staring down like the barrel of a gun to Touka saying, no getting away today, you will die here. And then Yomo, being the best uncle he can possibly be, steps in and saying, get out of here, go on. And Touka's like, Yomo, what do you mean? He goes, Touka, you are not just some onlooker, nor are you powerless. And this line right here is what I absolutely love. You just have other things you need to protect, right? And right there, you know what he's talking about. He knows Touka is pregnant. Like, honestly, Yomo's such a good uncle. He doesn't even have to be told, or he might have been told off panel, but honestly, this man knows that in order to protect Touka, it means also to protect the child inside her. The way he's just telling her to get out of here with the flashback to part 1 when she's crying about trying to save everyone in Inteku, and then Hinami coming up from the background, basically telling her to let's go. It's a powerful moment, and I am just fearing for Yomo right now. I don't want him to die, but if he were to die, this is the most badass way he could possibly go out. Just Yomo going up against Mitsuki and Ora. And that is basically the cliffhanger we left on with that group. But then it's the last panel where Touka gets to a dead end, and who else but Hajime, the bastard incarnate, is waiting for her, where he's basically having his Kagane chow down on Fuka and his 2 subordinates. Like, honestly, this is a monstrosity right now, the way that he's just munching on these dead corpses in front of him and basically saying, oh no, how sad. This is a dead end. And we're left with that end of chapter. Ishida loves these cliffhangers. That's all I gotta say. There's been so many cliffhangers with every chapter right now where it's just like, oh shit, we gotta wait another week. But I think for this one, we have to wait 2 weeks for the next chapter, because I think next week it's going to be on break. So which makes this wait even more hellish. Well, guys, that's it for this review. Like, that is everything I definitely wanted to talk about for this chapter. One of the better chapters we've gotten for Tokyo Ghoul, and I just really can't wait till 2 weeks from now when we get the next chapter, and that's gonna suck waiting for the next 2 weeks. So anyway, guys, end of this review. Leave your comments down below on your overall thoughts, theories, and speculations on what you think is going to happen moving forward, and anything that I did not mention or bring up within this chapter that you want to continue to talk about, we'll do that in the comment section as well. So that's it for this review, guys. Until 2 weeks from now, when we have the next Tokyo Ghoul chapter, I will talk with you guys then. All right, guys, see you later.